Well, that didn't work. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Tommy, and today I'm joined by my good friend Lynn.
Greetings, everybody.
And today we are going to discuss the now canceled daytime soap opera As the World Turns.
I'm going back into the
Um,
archives and gonna throw some homage to a good oldie but a goodie.
yes, so I will run a special video and we will get right into it.
As the World Turns. Brought
Oh, my heart, that was so good. We're back in 1993, Tommy. This is awesome.
Yeah, I like the. I'm used to the opening that I guess aired in like the mid to towards the end of the series, like
Sure.
2005 on.
Okay.
So seeing this, I was like, oh, this is so slow and boring, but I've been humming it.
And you know what? This was back in the day too, where soap operas were so good, and they'd use their theme song as background music for some of the scenes too. I mean, Young and the Restless was king of it, but As the World Turns
Yes.
would do it once in a while. Some of the nighttime
Mhm.
soaps would do it too. So that's
Yeah.
nostalgic. That one that you played that we're going to be discussing these episodes was pretty iconic. Probably the one that was playing throughout the 80s that they used before that is the most iconic, but still very good.
Yeah, I was thinking about it because like Days of Our Lives, they have changed like the look. They've updated the look of the hourglass maybe
Sure.
twice, but they pretty much have had the same opening since 93,
Yeah.
um, which is now going on 30 years. I was gonna say 20.
Which I think is smart. It's very iconic. Good for them.
Yeah.
Days is still
Yeah.
around. Even though moving to streaming, Days is still around, audience, and that's a great thing.
But I did notice like the ABC and CBS soaps were not constantly, but every few years they would like switch up their openings.
Yes. And they changed their music, General Hospital, I'm
Yeah.
calling you out. It's just really weird. Again, the last most beloved General Hospital theme, besides the ambulance going into the hospital lot, was the Faces in the Heart theme of the 90s, where they had the different characters' faces flashing up. That was really melted people's hearts, and they were really strongly attached to, myself included. It's probably actually what got me hooked on started watching that show, because that damn opening credits was like, I'm hooked.
Well, okay, so today I've already said we're talking about As the World Turns. I don't have much history with this show. I started watching, during the whole Luke coming out story, and I would dip in here and there towards the end.
Sure.
But you were a regular watcher at this time.
I was. So let me kind of bring you and the audience up to speed on what we're going to be watching here. This is May 1993 that Tommy and I are going to cover today. And now we're probably about like 7 to 8 years in of Lily and Holden. And
Okay.
Lily Walsh is Lucinda Walsh's daughter. Lucinda Walsh hired Holden to be her stable boy, and Lily was instantly magnetically attracted to him.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I get it, obviously. Look
exactly.
at him.
So John Hensley was working it back then in the mid to late 80s. Definitely had that stubble going and that swooped over hair and throw the flannel on. Yeah, the audience was hooked. Um, like any type of star-crossed lovers, they had their back and forth issues. It came out that Lily was adopted, and Iva, Holden's sister, was her mother. Well, then that makes it sound like Holden's Lily's uncle, but nope. Turns out Iva was adopted. We just can't write enough of this in soap world. Douglas Marland did a great job. God rest in peace, Douglas Marland. He wrote this out. Well, then eventually Lily and Holden got married. There was a drunken night where Holden slept with Julie, who was the girlfriend of his brother Caleb, and she ended up getting pregnant. And she kept the pregnancy secret from Holden. And then after the baby was born, Iva, Lily's biological mother, adopted the baby, and they named him, eventually his name became to be Aaron, but they tried to keep that secret from Holden and Lily, and Holden found out the truth from Julie when he visited her in New York, and he was so stunned by hearing the news. When he left her apartment in New York, he ran out in the street and wasn't paying attention, and he got hit by a car.
Oh, wow.
He ended up having to have his brain scooped out for whatever hemorrhage reason, and he lost all his memories and his memories of Lily and his whole family. So when he was finally discovered, because he was a missing John Doe for a long time, after his family finally found him and brought him back home, he wasn't attracted to Lily. By this time, Julie was back in Oakdale and getting back together with Holden's brother Caleb, but yet Holden was kind of attracted to her, and Lily just couldn't deal with it, and she left the show. Now, during this time when Lily and Holden got married and then he lost his memory, Martha Byrne had left the show, and they recast her with an actress that, I believe her name was Heather Rattray, and she was okay. She was a little bit harder edged than Lily, and they decided not to renew her contract, and she left the show. Well, during the 4 to 5 months of not having the character Lily on the show, Douglas Marland, the head writer, was still in good contact with Martha Byrne, the Lily that everybody loved and that first were together with Holden. And he convinced her to come back, wrote this great storyline outline, and died like the minute she came back to the show, like just before. The storyline had been written.
Oh, wow.
But that's why they made a big brouhaha about her coming back, the way they filmed the scenes. You didn't get to see the episode before the first one we discussed, but it definitely ended with him walking into that nightclub in Malta and seeing her. Like, that was the last 2 minutes of the show on the Friday thing, and then you had to wait the weekend into Monday.
Oh, wow. Well, you answered a lot of my questions I was going to ask you.
And it's weird. All of a sudden, we decided, like, Holden started to have an interest in Lily after she was gone. But he still didn't have his memories of her, but he wanted to find her. There was something in him growing that he wanted to find her. And then he got a tip because Emily Stewart, who's the blonde on the show, who works for Montgomery and Associates, went to go visit Kingsley, Malta over in Italy and met Damien, and also bumped into Lily there and shared that information that that she saw Lily.
So I guess
the
scene that I have on the screen right now was a replay of the Friday.
Correct.
Cliffhanger.
This is kind of how they close on Friday. We're here now, Holden in Malta, Italy, trying to find Lily. Singing, and he goes inside this club.
Did he recognize her voice? Was he like, I know that voice?
I believe so.
Even though his memories were gone?
Yes.
Well, I was going to ask you if they had recast her in between this, because I know this was like her big return. Was this also the first time we were seeing Damien? Like him showing up in Oakdale was the first time we saw him?
Yes, it was. We, as the audience, had no idea that all of a sudden there was going to be Damien. No, they had kind of and he showed up in Oakdale. But, here's ironically, just singing the Bonnie Raitt song, I Can't Make You Love Me If You Don't. Because that really is her. Her husband Holden doesn't remember her and didn't love her, and she just couldn't stay in Oakdale and be around him, so that's why she left. And she ended up going over to Italy, and she met Damien there. And I don't know how much you want me to give away, I can keep talking.
Well, her mother, Lucinda, you said is her mother? Her adopted mother?
Lucinda is her adopted mother, and that's another reason why she's on the town, is she was very upset that Lucinda knows that Holden fathered a child who Julie didn't tell her, and that was part of the reason that caused his accident, because he was so Lily blamed Lucinda for a lot of this stuff, and she was very angry with her. You
I love the feed of like the chunks photos.
The extreme close-ups.
just so you could like feel all the emotions they're
I will lay
feeling.
down my
So that's why Holden's being a little bit somber here too, because he realized the song that she's singing is really describing their relationship and him.
So did he get his memories back? Is that why he was there looking for her?
So here's the big one. There was a lot of press about this. Douglas Marland had planned for Holden not to get his memories back. He said when he did that switch, it was going to be that way. Well, Douglas died, and other writers came in, and I'm sure CBS had some thoughts because they knew the power of the super couple that was Holden and Lily. And eventually, Holden's memories do return to him, and he fully remembers Lily and his family.
Okay. So Lucinda had mentioned that Lily owned, I think, the hotel or part of the hotel that Damien is staying in.
That Damien was staying at, correct. She was like a partial owner in that as well. Yes, so she was bragging that up that Damien, when he came to town, was staying there. Now, meanwhile, Damien comes to town with an agenda too, because we don't
I have to confess that I thought I was expecting somebody else,
So
but
this
I
is
am
his first
so
scene.
happy to have the pleasure to finally
They
meet
showed him
you.
for, like,
I'm happy to finally
3
meet you too,
seconds
Mrs.
on
Walsh.
Friday, and he had
I
to
hear a
find
great deal about you in Europe.
And then on
Always
Monday,
strong,
something
positive.
Ah, good. I'm glad to hear that. And may I introduce again
See, I wasn't sure because
Neil
a lot
Alcott.
of
She's
people
my
were
art
like,
director.
oh, like I met
Pleasure
up
to
with
meet you,
him
Ms.
in
Alcott.
Italy.
Pleasure's
I'm
all
like,
mine,
that actually
Maldi.
airs.
Neil
It's just like
studied
a normal
in
story.
Rome,
Just
and she's a
like-
wonderful watercolorist.
Like,
Really?
Oh, I was very
Yes.
excited to see Emily.
Perhaps
because
I can
know
see your
Emily
work
from
sometime.
Oh, I'm
later
sure that can be
years.
arranged.
So I was like, ooh, somebody I
Well,
know
let's sit
besides Holden
down.
and Lily.
If I'd known you were coming, I would have
And I heard
rolled out the
names
red
that I
carpet.
recognized. I heard
Il tappeto
Cal,
rosso.
I appreciate that.
Margot,
I didn't know
which you know was
very early this morning.
Ah,
But
The
is
schedule
this the
suddenly opened
Margot
up,
that
which made it possible for me to fly in
played her till the end of the
and meet
series?
with some of the American companies Kingsley Malta is
Because it
interested
didn't
in.
look like her. I was like, well, maybe she was just younger.
And when exactly did you arrive in town?
I just arrived this
Margot
afternoon.
that you got to saw was the very
I dropped my things off at the hotel
and
and came directly to Worldwide.
I'll go back.
Good.
Oh, really?
I'm very pleased to
And
be
then
the
she
first
stayed
to
with
I
win.
always liked Lucinda,
Come
though.
off the air. Ellen Dolan stayed until the very end of the show.
Gotcha.
So some of that we saw right there, that's Damien coming to Oakdale, like it's New York or something. But Oakdale's got Worldwide, which is owned by Lucinda. It's got Walsh Enterprises, which Connor and Kirk are running. And Connor did a hostile takeover of it. That used to be Lucinda's company because she's Lucinda
Okay.
Walsh. And Connor is somehow some descended Walsh relative, and she did a hostile court takeover, and they ousted Lucinda. So Lucinda went and created Worldwide. So there's Worldwide, there's Walsh Enterprises, and then there's Montgomery and Associates, which was started by Craig Montgomery, who used to work under Lucinda, and Emily's there. So these three big hitters are all trying to land Kingsley Malta, but Damien's there, if you will, interviewing all of them.
I can't remember the actress's name, but we also saw she played Jessica on this show, and she was on SVU.
Tamara Tooney.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
I was like, wow, I knew she was from the show. I just didn't know she went this far back.
Yep.
I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. So the week is pretty much Damien making his rounds with all these like titans of business in Oakdale.
Yep. Exactly.
Everybody wants a piece of him or a piece of his company.
Yes.
Some people seem to surprised at his appearance. Like, is he like he's younger or more attractive than they were expecting? Emily was one of them.
I think the audience was the other one because the love was so strong for Holden and Lily. Damien was the biggest risk factor in that couple that ever happened on that show.
But you see, that's the thing about a good triangle. You need to be the audience needs to be torn between who
In my
they want.
opinion,
the one whoever the center of the triangle is, not
Exactly.
the woman. But
In my opinion, out of the 90s, there's two huge triangles that stick out in my mind anyhow. And the one is Holden, Lily, Damien, and the other one is Jax, Brenda, Sunny.
yeah.
Those
For
were
me,
big.
it's Philip, Chloe, Brady, because there was a moment way back 20 years ago where I was like, I just want Chloe to be happy.
I get that.
Even though Philip was my first choice, I was like, I guess I could accept her with Brady.
Right. Those two that I named off, though, I've never seen anybody beat the amount of soap magazine covers that those triangles had on soaps.
Just trying to see something really quick. Oh, so I love seeing other soap actors from when they were younger, or just because they hop up on other shows. And to my
Why is
surprise,
he making my dad come all the way out here? He's
Sharon
got all
Case
this work
appeared.
to do, and he's out here checking on me.
I recognized her voice right away, and I was like, I have
How
to
well you
screenshot
are.
this
Well,
and
I have
send it
you
to
for a lot of that, Emma.
What are little red porn flash?
What did your New York office want?
They're just pestering me to get on with the editing.
Was she
Get on
on
with your
very long?
editor.
Say that one more time.
Was she on the show very long?
She wasn't. I want to say it was probably an encapsulation of about 6 or 7 months. It really wasn't that long.
Yeah, because this is 93, and she started appearing on Y&R in 94.
That's it. I think they made a change for whatever reason as the world turns, and I think she got written off, and the gentleman that was playing her dad got written off. And so I think As the World Turns lost was definitely Young and Restless's game, because they had 2 Sharons in there with Nick beforehand that it just wasn't gelling. And finally, when they hired Sharon as the third, she just took, and that was it.
And then I texted you for confirmation. I thought I spotted like a younger Gina Tognoni, and I'm like, is this Gina? And you're like, no.
No.
Because it sounded like her.
Right, the gal that played Andy Dixon's wife, and why am I Courtney was
Courtney.
name, but I think I'm trying to remember the actress's name, and it's escaping me right now. They were pretty popular on that show. And again, Andy, who you saw, who's John Dixon's son with Kim Hughes, when they were married, Scott DeFreitas is married to Mara West, who played Carly on As the World Turns, and now Avon General Hospital in real life.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And this is still 2 years before Maura came to the show, I think.
Yes.
2 or 3 years.
Yes.
So yeah, what else? Oh, another character, Hutch. That name stuck out for me because he was cute.
Hutch was pretty popular on there too. He had a brother named Link, or a half brother, and then that actor, when he left the show, I think it was shortly after that, he was on a nighttime action show on CBS. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Walker, Texas Ranger. He was on there quite a bit. With Chuck Norris.
He's probably made other appearances because he looks very familiar.
Yeah.
I didn't watch that show, but
Yeah.
he looks familiar.
Let's put it this way: the Snyder Farm always had its rounds of hunky men going on that place all the time. It was kind of funny.
I recognized that set, and I was like, oh, well, at least in the later years, they still had that set. Like,
They did. That was an iconic set. People loved it. I
Yeah.
think there was some actors that might have taken like a bowl or this or that from off of that set because it was such a homey set, and they wanted to have a remembrance of it when the show ended.
yeah. What was it? There was another actor. Okay, so the name Michael. I don't know how they refer to him on the show. Kept popping up. I'm not sure if he was on screen or not. Is that the character that Sean Christian played?
If they said Mike, I must have missed that because you're right. Mike Kasnoff did come on like after Hutch left, and then they brought Mike on to have love interest for Rosanna.
Is he also the character that what's his name? He plays Franco on GH.
You're right.
Todd from One Life to Live.
Yeah.
Roger Howarth.
Yes.
Is he? Did he play Mike also?
No, he played Paul Stenbeck.
Oh, he was Barbara's son.
Yes.
Barbara didn't appear this week, right? I was like trying to keep an eye out for her.
She didn't on the episodes that we watched. It was so much Damien coming to town, Holden trying to track down Lily in Malta, Italy. You know, she runs out of the club when she gets done singing because she sees him, and he chases her down a hallway, but she hides and he doesn't find her. And for whatever reason, we as the audience don't know, but I realize part of the reason why Lily's hiding is she's now remarried and got married to Damien. And I don't think she's ready to tell Holden yet. She's not ready to face them because she's still dealing with a lot of angst on the fact that he couldn't remember her and that he had a baby with Julie. And this caused his accident because they kept it from him. So there's a lot of turmoil. And she wanted to stay away from Oakdale, but ironically, what's bringing them to Oakdale is Damien's there trying to decide which firm he's going to do business with. And, he's not going to do business with Lucinda, but he's not.
So I'm watching this and I'm like, why are you running from him? He's just trying to love you. Like,
I know.
She's like I said, you filled in so many of the blanks with your summary of it all.
Exactly. She's still in love with him, but now she's married to someone else.
Because I'm like, why was she in Italy? Why was he looking for her? Was she presumed dead? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. This was kind of one of the last big.
She's whipping her jacket around like she's Batman. She's like it's her Katie Foley.
That drama.
I would assume this was on location, right? It looks real.
I guess the bells are distracting from actually. Because then when the scene comes back, he just kind of walks right past her and she stays hidden, and then scoots back the other way, and he doesn't hear her.
Yeah, there was he passed either a similar section where he looked where she's standing and she wasn't there.
Right.
So when he didn't do it for that one, I was like, what happened?
I know, exactly. I was kind of disappointed, but I think the audience, they knew what they were doing. I was disappointed that he didn't find her. That would have been.
And then he looks back. Right. Where she was.
She's gone, and so he doesn't hear. He feels like he's lost in whatever direction we're trying to do.
But you know what? This is the stuff that I watch so much for. I like the angst. Exactly. I like we almost made it, but not quite.
Like just looking on the edge of your seat. Angst all over her face.
This makes so much more sense now that I know what was happening.
They did this good because it was huge having her back. That was a big moment for As the World Turns. This was May, sweeps month. They had done a lot of hype. I'm sure the ratings came in like crazy, but they were so fortunate that they got the actor that is Paolo Sorgente as Damien, and that chemistry was just there between the three of them. It was fire on the screen.
So I don't know how familiar you are with 90s days, but they hired an Italian actor to play a character named Franco Kelly on Days.
Okay.
And his accent is very similar to Damien's, and every time he speaks, all I can think about is Franco.
Yeah. Cool. I can see that.
Their characters are totally different. This is a better character, but
got it.
Just the accent. I'm like, oh, Franco, I miss him.
Flashes back.
And for context, Franco is the one who was murdered that Sammy went on death row for.
Okay.
Because she was supposed to marry him, and she was framed for his murder. But back to As the World Turns.
Got it.
So I guess, Holden is coming to grips with the fact that she doesn't want anything to do with him.
Well, he's still trying to find her. He's asking people. He goes shopping, as you remember, and that's where he sees a drawing of her.
Yes.
And
I did clip that. But I didn't clip him actually seeing it.
Oh, well, he's
okay. I Sabatino. I speak English.
There you go.
You are looking
Well, he's
for
shopping
some
for
presents,
gifts to take home.
for my family. Oh, you are leaving, am I?
I also, there's a scene on the beach, I think,
If you see anything that pleases you, signore, I am at your
I thought it
service.
was pretty.
Funny.
Where she goes in the rowboat. I was like, she does not want to be my
This would be
I
great for
know,
her.
exactly. Oh, there's the picture.
And me not knowing what's going on, I was like, what is wrong with you?
I know they did everything for those two not to find one another, not for Holden not to find Lily. Let's put it that way, which was kind of surprising. I'm like, wow, you go on this big location shoot. There could have been great love scenes or this or that, and it's like they just keep missing each other.
So
you're
there
right.
was a lot of couples that I was like, okay, who are these people? Like, because I knew Holden's mother.
Emma.
So was she with Sharon Case's character's father?
Right. So I think this is now the point where Emma had been with John Dixon, then she was with Cal, and now she's with this guy that I can't remember, Sharon Case's dad on the show. Right.
And then I guess it was Iva was with this guy who I recognized, I think, just from like magazines, who used to be with Lucinda.
Right. So that's John Dixon, and he's Andy's dad. Andy's the one with the camera all the time that you saw in these scenes. And John, I think, is probably chief of staff at Oakdale Memorial at this time. And he and Lucinda were married, then they got divorced, then they were kind of getting back together. Then for some reason, he got together with Iva, and I feel like he and Iva fathered a child, plus Iva adopted Holden's son.
Okay.
So it gets confusing, but he
This sounds so good. I want to
make
watch it all.
He decided he wanted to make a go of it with Iva, and meanwhile, this Jason character who's kind of interacting with Tom and is with the FBI or something like that, is coming to town and kind of getting Iva's interest too. So John decides he needs to end it with Lucinda, and he tells Lucinda that. And Lucinda, though she takes it well to John's face, Lucinda took that being dumped out on her staff, as you saw her react to her scenes.
That name sounds familiar, Tom. Tom Hughes. Does he get with Margot?
Tom and Margot are together, yes, exactly.
And they have a son, Casey?
They have two kids. The first one, Adam, Margot fathered with Hal, who Hal later marries Barbara, and then Tom and Margot did have Casey, correct.
Okay, so that was... Because Casey was a teenager when I was watching.
Very good. Yeah.
That was during the whole... Munson. What's his name? The one that was with...
Yes.
Oh, I can't
remember.
Gwen and her.
But I can't remember. Fans are going, are you kidding me? You don't
I'm saying Munson, and all I could think about is Jeff Munson from Knots Landing, and I'm like, that's not it.
Exactly. It'll come to me. It'll come to me.
Will. Gwen and Will.
Thank you.
We
She's
saved
doing
it.
very well as an actor on NBC nighttime drama shows, so good for him.
Yeah. And she's on Yellowstone, I believe.
And she's also been on Animal Kingdom on TNT. I'm on like season 3 or something, I think. Yes.
So this was about the first week of May, and then we watched a little bit later in the month.
Well, yes. Well, I was gonna at least say how like Damien makes the rounds again with Kingsley or with Lucinda's group, with Walsh Enterprises and the M&A, and meanwhile he's got some family member that's giving opinions on who she thinks he should go with, and he's just keeping a very somber face about all this. But Holden tries to find Lily and runs to that beach where the sketch artist had sketched the picture of her, and she hops on some tugboat or whatever we want to call it.
Rowboat. She's like,
life raft. I
was like, damn girl, just talk to him.
You know, she's like Holden and puts the glasses on. The way it goes across the odd. I'm like, where are you going to go to? The other side of freaking Italy, or what are you going to dive into there? But he again misses her, and he throws his picture of him and Lily in the water. He's like, I tried to find you, Lily.
I was like, this girl's just like, she's gonna jump on a Vespa and just like speed away.
So then we see Holden on a plane next, and he pulls out that picture. So obviously he went back to that shop and bought that sketch of Lily, and he's just looking at it and thinking about her, and that's kind of how that ends with that time period.
So he goes back to Oakdale, and then from what we watched, eventually I guess Lily makes her way back to Oakdale.
Correct, because she comes back. The reason why Lily comes back, and again, we as the audience still don't know that Lily is married to Damien. We just see Lily come back because she's hell-bent on Lucinda, and she wants to null and void any adoption record that associates her as Lucinda's daughter. And she has a court appearance with a judge with Lucinda and Lily on either side of the table, and it was such good drama, and you could feel the angst with these two actresses because they had played together for like 5 years throughout the second half of the 80s, and they were so good. And then Martha Byrne left, and then they got her back, and it was great to have her for these scenes. And she got her wish and got her adoption null and voided, and not being Lucinda's daughter. Now eventually they make up, and then it's like she still calls her a daughter, and the show never kind of really explains any of that. It's like, did they re-sign some paperwork or what? But it was good heightened drama, and Lily must have left Damien a note that she was going to go out and visit the farm after she was done with disavowing the adoption to Lucinda. And so Damien...
I'm looking for my wife.
There we go.
I understand she was planning to visit here this afternoon.
You're like, who's your wife?
Your wife?
Why, yes. Lily.
Yeah, so I'm watching this, I'm like,
Camille
what?
excited.
I was like, is that why she was in Italy?
Right. And this
Lily
is
Grimaldi now.
May 24th, so
We're
this
married
is
in
like
March.
3 weeks after he's been on the show. And we've been in the dark about all of that. They did a good job.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, first of all, so much sexy in one scene. Between
Right.
Holden and
I mean,
Damien, I'm like...
the screen's melted.
I'm like, okay. I can see why she's torn.
Right? I'm going to have a drink right now. Because I'm thirsty.
And also, so many questions because I'm like, wait, you're married? And then he mentions March, and then I'm like, okay, well, he didn't come on until April. So then or May, and I'm like, okay, was he? This is when I'm like, was he on the show prior to?
So
doing
all this
Oakdale?
was happening off screen
Off
because they
screen.
didn't have
Okay.
Martha Byrne back yet, and they explained the backstory that Lily took off like the beginning of the year, like January 1st or something, and just leave. She didn't even say goodbye to Holden. She kind of just said goodbye to the family and said, "I'm going. I can't stay here anymore." They got divorced while she was gone. She must have met Damien in like March at a party. Quickly, they escalated, and Damien really pursued her, and they got married. And then he must have announced he was going to the States to sign a business deal amongst these 3 companies, and she decided that she was going to return. This was going to finally be what pushed her return to the States, and she was going to disavow that adoption from Lucinda.
This is very interesting. I wish I could watch it all.
So she was definitely avoiding Steve Holden, and honestly, the show avoided any scene with Damien and Lily until this point. So Paolo Sorgente had been on the show for 3 weeks and never had a scene with Martha Byrne yet.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So that was like the big reveal.
Correct.
Very good.
So they did feature Lily during the month of May, but it was like her returning, coming back, then having the big courtroom scene with Lucinda and getting her wish and getting it disavowed.
They could have done that so many ways. I like how they did it. They could have had Damien showing up at the court and her just being like, "Oh, this is my husband."
Right. No, it was very clever writing. I feel like this is probably the last of Douglas Marland's writing. He probably had written a Bible because he would do that, so he probably had an outline, and the new writers could take from that. Because I have a feeling for like the next 4 months, he had written out what that storyline outline was going to be, and they just had to write all the details and be breakdown writers and stuff like that.
Interesting. Well, I think that's pretty much the gist of what we watched.
Right. So now the reveals happen. Well, then there was one more scene that happened that we saw in this. Now we finally see Damien go back to his hotel, and Lily's there, and she tells him how she got her wish, and the adoption to Lucinda is disavowed. She's no longer legally Lucinda's daughter. He pulls out a box with a beautiful dress for her. They kiss. They're very affectionate. You realize Lily's in love with him. Like he's saying, "Oh, M. Snyder wants us to come back out to the farm for a visit. They're dying to see you." and she's kind of offstandish. And Lily's pretty honest to some point with Damien, the fact that she doesn't want to see Holden, and Damien gets that. But what Damien doesn't know is Lily is still in love with Holden, and that's what Lily's holding back and not telling him. And she is falling more in love with Damien, but she's still torn on Holden. But the reason why
she's hurt. She's not in love with him.
Correct.
So she never stopped loving him.
And the thing that's confusing for her is Holden still doesn't technically have memories of her yet. He just has some pull and draw that now he wants to make sure she's okay and things like that. It's like now all of a sudden she's interested. It's like, well, you're interested because it's Martha Burnback, and the audience is going to be watching for all of this.
It was the mid-90s. Did they play Celine Dion's It's All Coming Back to Me Now?
Right.
Because in 95 was around the time that song came out.
And this, when Martha Byrne came back, she was on the show from 84 to 89. And she was off until May of 93. And she stayed on until May of 2008 when there was the whole big contract dispute. And they put out a casting call, and she said, that's it, she's out of here. And then they hired a different actress. And for the last 2.5 years of the show, they had this other actress, and the audience, they wanted Martha Byrne back, let's just be real.
Yeah.
When the announcement came
I
out...
remember not hating the recast.
She wasn't bad. The chemistry just wasn't there between her and Holden like it was before. And when they announced that the show was going to be canceled, Martha Byrne even publicly reached out and said, I'd love to come back and play out the final months of the show. And the actress that was playing Lily even said she'd be okay with that, and the show didn't bite on it. And the fans were pissed. Even like John Hensley, who played Holden.
That's really messed up.
Even John Hensley, who played Holden, said those scenes were missing her at the end, and it would have been so much more climactic had she been there. And it's unfortunate, but...
Did Holden and Lily end up together in the end?
Well, do you want me to give that away?
Well, it's been over for 12 years, so...
Right. When the show ended, Harley and Jack got remarried, but Lily and Holden didn't. But they had a conversation that they talked, and it was basically like, we'll see what tomorrow brings. The love is still there. So they planted the seed to the audience like, they're going to get back together. We're just not going to see it play out because there's not enough time, but they planted that seed.
Okay. Well,
fan
that's
fiction,
hopeful.
Fan fiction writing, go crazy.
Fan fiction, right? Well, unless you have anything else to add, I think we can wrap this up.
I think we did pretty good. One of the things you maybe noticed, Damien's nickname for Lily is Cara. So he calls her Cara quite a bit. I don't know where that comes from. It must be an Italian thing, but that's kind of his pet name for her.
I'll ask Greg, he's Italian.
There you go. And then Holden and Lily, back in the younger days, especially when he was the stable boy, he used to call her ma'am. So once in a while, you might see him slip that in the conversation too.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
I like that little nickname. It's like Fancy Face for Hope.
Right.
For Bo and Hope.
Right. Because Lily would come out and want to ride horses at the stables and stuff like that, and she'd kind of order Holden around. She kind of kept Holden feeling like he was beneath her at first because she was dating Dusty at the time, and she was trying to hide her attraction to him. And so he goes, "Sure thing, ma'am. I'll take care of that, ma'am." So then he'd slip that in once in a while. There'd be different scenes where that would happen, and that was kind of funny.
That's cute. I hope I catch that.
And another big thing Holden would say, and they kind of had some of it in flashbacks, or how one another would hear how Lily would hear his voice. Holden would always say to Lily, "We're a part of each other." So they would play on that quite a bit. And they were doing that on a few of these scenes that we watched too.
Oh, I love them.
Well, I love that
I haven't even seen that much of them, but I love them.
I know, but I love that they showed the flashback scene when Lily was on the beach getting ready to take off in the life raft or whatever it was, and she had a flashback where
I like how every time we talk about it, it's something it's a canoe, it's a life raft, it's
like
a
Holden
rowboat.
jumped out of the stables, and that was the first time she saw him, and his shirt is hanging open, and she's like taken back by him, and it's like, yeah, the whole audience is taken back by him.
I mean, I was too. So.
And you know what? Douglas Marland did it right. That's how he premiered Holden at the end of like a Friday episode for like 2 seconds, and he did the same thing with Damien on As the World Turns.
Ah.
Clever. Back when soaps had money and they could wait the whole hour and wait till like the last 3 minutes of the hour to show an actor, and it's like, oh, they still got paid for a full episode. But
Paid for, right? They got paid for 2 episodes.
It's funny.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this special Sunday morning edition of Queers and Soaps.
Yeah,
As always, you
glad-
can find us on all the socials at Queers and Soaps. Go ahead.
Oh, I said I'm glad Tommy was the one who reached out and had a real interest in wanting to check out this triangle. So I'm glad you've enjoyed what you've seen. This was a fun trip down
Yes.
memory lane.
And thanks for filling in the gaps, because there's huge craters.
Sure,
But as always, find us on all the socials at Queers and Soaps. And until next time, have a great end of your weekend, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.